Okay, so you folks are able to see my screen, right?
Yes,
Okay, I will create a simple JavaScript file. We call it scopes.js. Okay, we'll disable the. Okay, let it be there. Sometimes I tend to forget the syntax, so the Copilot might help me. Okay, awesome. So scopes in JavaScript. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So first thing is global scope, like it has given. So we have. So what are scopes first? First, let's disable this. Let this not dictate what I teach. Okay. So what is scope? Can anyone tell me? Just tell whatever you know. Totally fine. Anyone? Aravind?
it is the area where a variable is declared or accessed.
Okay, the area where variable is declared and accessed.
Variable is
Yeah,
declared.
yeah. Okay, so you're declaring a variable either here, like you can call it like let a is equal to let name is equal to Aravind, something like this, and you can declare it inside a function as well. You can call it, let's say, get name, or you can call it like get full name. You get two variables here, like first name, last name, and then you return some full name. Okay, now here there are two variables as well. Okay, you return the, or you can create something like let full name equal to first name plus last name, and you return the full name. Okay, so I have declaration here as well, and I have a function within that I'm declaring it as well. Okay, so what could be the difference between the scope of these two variables? Or let's say we'll give the same name so that it will be easier for you to understand. Will these two things clash? Name equal to, in this case, Pawan. Okay. So I have the same variables declared here and declared here as well. So if I console.log name, what could be the output? Can anyone guess? Let's say we call this function as well. Here. What happens now? What would be the name?
Aravind?
Okay, let's try this. We run it via node. So you know how JavaScript works in server with browser. Anyone has any doubt? I can explain that as well. Let me know. Aravind, right. But why? Why I have put a name here? I call this function. This function should have changed this name, right? Why not?
Because it's declared inside the function. The scope of that variable should be inside. If we call it like if we log.console inside the function means we'll get that. So as it is a local, it's like it has that scope inside only. When we are consoling outside means we'll get the value of outside variable.
Correct. So what Amulya said is right. So like you can see, the scope of this name is within this particular function. Okay. So anything that happens outside won't affect this name. Okay. Because JavaScript creates, you can ideally you call it a function scope. Okay. So this is function scope, and this is the what we call it as global scope. Okay. So this is access. This can be, this particular variable can be accessed across the whole file. Okay. So now let's say I put console.log name here. What happens now? What will this print? Anyone? Pawan? Pawan, can you hear me? Okay, we'll move to Godwin.
Sir, Aravind.
What do you mean, Arvind? Oh,
Sir.
sorry. Okay, okay, yeah, makes sense. When you said Aravind, I thought like you want Aravind to answer. Okay, but what happens here is like cannot access name before initialization. Any guess why? Now let's say bring this to war. No, also the same thing. Any guess? Amulya?
Yeah, because that variable is declared outside. It is new because it's not declared inside the function. It may giving error like it's not declared like that.
Okay, so there is something called hosting in JavaScript. Who knows what is hosting? Anyone? Okay, I will take it as a no. Okay, so what hosting does is like it takes your variable declaration to the top. First, it will say, so there is a variable called name. I need to define that variable, and then I declare that variable. And then whatever actions you do, like print that variable or assign that variable, you can do whatever you want. Okay. Now that particular hosting has scopes, like priorities, like your function gets more priority over you can define function in two ways. Like you can call it like get name equal to something like arrow function. So this is a function expression. So this is a normal function. Okay. So this is also a function. This is also a function, or you can do something like this as well. Yeah. So now this gets more priority over this. Okay. Now the JavaScript will take all these variables, functions, and everything, and define those functions and variables, and then start executing one by one. So at that particular time, when this particular function is hoisted to the scope, the name itself won't be there. Okay. So you are trying to access this particular name before even it has been initialized. Okay. So the name variable itself is not there in that case. You guys understand? Anybody have any doubts? You can. We have seen the global scope about hosting, and let's see what is the block scope. Okay. So there are three types of variables. One is like three type of variable declarations. One is var, const, and let. Okay. Among this, var as function scope. And stop me whenever you don't understand it. Const and let as block scope. Okay. Means, so when I say block scope, what is a block in Java? Anyone? How can you tell if it is a block scoped? Arvind? Arvind?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah. Can you tell me what is block scope?
In block scope, it is declared inside a block.
Okay. What is a block then?
One or more statements
Okay.
written together, he said something.
Yeah. So
Like functions.
let's say you have a
maybe.
function. Yeah. Function as well. But when it comes to function, you call it as a function scope, but we will take the same full name as example, or print array, print array of strings maybe as an example. Okay. So here, let's say we have a for loop. It takes an array of strings. Okay. Let's say we have a for loop. Says variable I is equal to 0, I less than array dot length. Let's see. We can. This is a default value for this particular parameter. Okay, you can just if this ARR is not passed, we will take this default value. So why we do this is like you will get some intelligence out of it. So all the array related methods will come for you. Okay. Now you can call this method and then pass some strings. Yeah. Something like this. Now you run this. Oops, I'm not returning anything here. My bad. Console.log array of I. Yeah, you see ABCD. Yeah. Okay. So now here this is a block. What you see here is a block. If I put a var, so this is a function scope declaration. So if I put a var like I equal to 20. Now if I console.log I here, and then console.log, I will call this I inside for, we'll pass this I here, and this is I outside for. Now this 20 has been changed by this particular variable declaration, right? You can see that, right? Now I don't want this 20 to be disturbed. I just want to separate this particular I from this I. So since var is a function scope, so the scope of I spans across the for loop as well. Okay. So inside the for loop as well, the variable I can be changed. Now, let's say I change this to let. I change this. So now you can see the difference, right? It is 20. Before that, if I run this, it has turned to 4. Can anyone tell me why I outside for loop is 4? Anyone? Maybe who else I have not called?
Array length is
Yeah.
array dot length until it's iterating. So
Okay, but inside it is 3, but outside it is 4. Why? So this is something aside from what we are discussing, but it is a good thought exercise for you. Anyone? So we are looping all the data inside this array. Inside the array, it has printed I inside for loop, but when it comes outside, it's printed 4. Any reason? Okay, so the reason behind this is like, look at this condition. So if I change something here, it will print 4 here as well. What should I change here? So this is not related to the scope and everything, deviating a little bit, but still, I'm just testing your understanding on how for loop works. This is basically how for loop works. Okay.
greater than is equal.
Is it post increment?
Exactly. So who said less than or equal to? Now it has become 5. Why? So this is the condition. Until this condition, this for loop runs. Okay. So it is like the I has become 4. Now the I can be either 4 or less than 4 until then this loop runs. But the I will increment in the next condition only the running of loop stops, but still it has incremented. Okay. It has become 4, but still it has incremented since this condition stops it from printing, but it won't stop this particular console log from printing it. You understand? The I has been already incremented. The value of I is 5 only, but you cannot print it inside it because of this condition. Because I'm saying only run this for loop until I is less than or equal to array.length. In this case, the length of array is what? 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. But still, the I's value has been incremented. Now, since we are doing a console log here, it is printing that I. So this is related to for loop, not at all related to scope or anything. Okay, but the reason why this particular 20 has been changed to 5 is related to the scope. Because since var is a function scope, this particular var, this particular incrementing of I++, right? This will affect the I we declared here. If you don't want this particular increment to affect this particular I, then you need to change this to let, which is a block scope. You are turning this function scoped I to a block scoped I. So there are two I variables here. One is function scoped, one is block scoped. Okay. So when I turn this to block scoped, this I will be changed only within this particular block. The scope of I stays within this for loop only. Okay, this scope of I stays within this function, and this won't be disturbed by this I. Okay, now if I run this, the output is still 20. I can change it outside this, like I is equal to I plus 1. Now, if you see this, it is 21, because this place and this place, still this I has scope, since it is a function scope. You need to understand this properly. Otherwise, it will be very confusing for you. JavaScript will be very confusing for you. Okay. Any doubts in this? Any, even if it is a very basic doubt, that is totally fine. Give a thumbs up if everyone has understand this. So, great. Okay, now we have seen function scope, block scope, and yeah. So what is const? Const is a little bit tricky. Anyone? What is const? Maybe Jay Darshini, you've been silent for a while.
Yes, sir. Maybe
Any guesses?
we declared as a const means we can't change the value declared.
Makes sense. Correct. Okay. So what can we give it as const? So what you're saying, Jay Darshini, is can't change the value. What can I declare here? Let's say we can declare pi, right? Pi is a constant, 3.14. So these kind of constants we can declare here. And if I try to change pi to like 5 in this place, and I try to run this code, says assignment to const variable. I cannot assign it to a const variable. Let's say in this particular case, say person equal to name, and name is in this case row. So this is a common name used across programming. Okay, so what happens if I do person dot name equal to Jane row? I'm changing the person's variable. What happens now if I run this? Anyone?
Will it show the same error?
Maybe Godwin. Godwin, what do you say?
Sir, I think the same, Sarvin.
Okay. Amalya?
Maybe something so. I don't know, sir. It's a block variable, right?
Whether it will throw error or not? That's the question.
Sir, I think it will print the name.
No, I haven't put any console log here. So
Oh, yeah.
the question is plain, whether it will throw error or not.
It may throw error, sir.
Okay, it will throw error. Who else is left? Aravind, Jay Darshini.
So I'm not
Any
sure
guesses?
actually.
Okay. Okay, we'll run this. Okay. Oh, it doesn't throw any error. Let's say I put a console.log. I print person dot name, and it has changed the name. We had defined as a const. It's not respecting const at all. It has changed the name. Any guess why? So this goes back to how variables work in JavaScript. So there are two types of variables. One is like primitive, which is your number and Boolean and all those stuff. Even I believe string is also primitive in JS, but string is a little bit complex. Right? And there is objects other than primitives, maps, sets, weak maps, weak sets, all those stuff. This is what? Okay. Anyone? Can you guys? Can anyone of you guys tell me like what is this particular data
Like
type?
maps.
Can you be a bit louder?
I feel it maps. Like it's mapping the name. It's like dictionary
It's not a
thing.
map. It's an object. It's like a dictionary. Correct. It's a Python dictionary, but we call it as objects in JavaScript. Okay. So this is how you declare object. There are some other ways to declare object as well, but we call it as object literal. Okay. Now this is a non-primitive type, and this whole object will be saved in a heap memory, and then within that you will have all this name, age, and all those stuff. Let's say just 37 or something like that. So this object is saved in the heap, and it has one memory address. Okay. So this one. So this inside this memory address, we can change anything, even though it is a const. But let's say now I have told you this is like one memory address, like something like let's say you have declared the spice equal to 3.14. Now this will occupy a memory address, right? This also has a memory address. Okay. Now, if I want to make this throw error, how can I do it? So in this case, I'm doing y is equal to 5, and this will throw error. Similarly, how to make this throw error? Any guess?
Again,
Yeah. So let's say I do person equal to name, same thing. I declare like this. Will this throw error? I'm changing the value directly in the object's memory, like wherever this object is residing. In that particular place, exactly I'm changing it. So not any properties inside that object. We call these as properties inside the object. You can say it right. Assignment to constant variable person. So now how const behaves is like it won't go deep and check what I have changed inside the object. But if you have changed the whole object itself, or even if it is like let's say it's a new map. Okay. So in map, what you can do is like you can do person dot set. Map is like exactly like a dictionary. Okay. So you can do John Doe, and we can do, once you set that, you can change it and everything. But similarly, if I try to do, try to reassign it to another map, I believe it should throw error. Yeah. Okay. So instead, let's try this. So here it allows to change it without error, because I'm changing a property inside that map. That is totally fine, even though it is a const. So this is something you need to remember, because let's say you declare a const variable and you are assuming that all the values inside it won't change. That could be wrong. Okay. So const throws error only when you change the actual object or the actual declaration itself. Like in this case, your map, a set, a weak map, weak set, whatever you are declaring. Similarly to in numbers, anyways, you cannot do this, right? It is a primitive type. You can declare like 3.14, or if it is a boolean, so yes, active, we have a boolean, let's say true. Okay, so this is one single variable. You don't have something like object, like name, age, or something like that. Okay, you can, if you try to change this active to false, this will directly throw the error, because you're trying to change it directly. Similarly, if you try to change this person directly, it will throw the error. But if you are changing some internal properties inside the person, it won't throw error, because you're manipulating the object, properties of the object, but not the whole object itself in this case. So you need to be careful when we are using const. If you want to freeze like all the properties inside the object, there are a few other things like object dot freeze, and you say name same John Doe, and if I try to do person dot name equal to Jane Doe, okay, let's try to also dot log person. Yeah, this won't get changed, but it won't throw error, but ideally it won't get changed in this case. So if I remove this object dot freeze, and now if I try to see, it has changed. And if I add object dot freeze, John Doe still says, because it cannot be changed, even though if you try to change this. Okay. Any doubts in this? No confusion? Again, you can give a thumbs up if you have understood this. Was it useful? Okay, I think we can stop here, because we have seen some confusing stuff, which are like confusing for even some of the experienced people as well. We will touch something a little bit, and then I will leave it up to you to explore more on this. Okay. On this, when I talk about this, I am going to teach you about this. So anyone, can you tell me what's this in JavaScript? Quickly, we are running out of time. Come on. Whatever you know. Or you can tell, you can just unmute and tell I haven't heard of this in script as well, so that it will save time. Come on, someone.
It represents the current object.
Current scope. So in this case, if I put this here, so this defines the global scope. In okay, are you folks able to see my browser? Someone immediately say yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I want to count on someone to immediately unmute and say yes or no so that I can continue faster without waiting. Okay, please. So now if I put this here, you see window. So the reason we see window is like a window is the top level variable in the browser. So it has all the objects you think of, like clear, timeout, fetch, whatever you think of, everything is in Windows. So similar way, let's say I'm running a Node.js application. If I console.log this, so this refers to a global variable. So you can see global, right? So this is how Node.js and JavaScript in browser, JavaScript in Node.js and JavaScript in browser differs. So if you have used any C or you have used C or Java or C++, right? You compile your code with the GCC compiler. Like if it is C or C++, you use GCC. If it is Java, you use Java C compiler, right? In the same way, so there is a compiler that compiles your code. So which means JavaScript is also a programming language. Some compiler needs to compile this code to machine code so that machine can understand, right? So when JavaScript is running in the browser, browser is the JavaScript compiler. Browser runs JavaScript for you. Browser compiles it and turns it into machine code and run it. When you are running JavaScript in a server in a Node.js, so now I don't have browser at all. We call it REPL, read eval print loop. That is what we call as REPL. When I run Node, the REPL opens. Okay. So why it is REPL? Because it reads what I'm typing, it evaluates what I'm typing, and then prints back. Now, if I print A, it gives 2. So that's why it's called REPL. Read, eval for evaluate, print, and then loop, and continue. Keeps on continuing. It waits for my input. If I print A again, it prints. That's why we call it as a REPL. So the important point here to take away is Node.js runs JavaScript for me in a non-browser based environment, in terminal or in a server. Node.js will take care of taking my JavaScript, compiling it into machine code, and then it will run JavaScript for me. When you are running it in browser, the browser acts as a compiler. So there is something called, each browser has its own JavaScript engine. For example, JS engines of different browsers. Okay, you see, right? V8 from Google is the most used JavaScript engine. SpiderMonkey is developed by Mozilla for using Firefox. JavaScript core is Apple's engine. Sakra is the engine of Internet Explorer browser. Each and every browser has developed their own way to compile JavaScript inside the browser. Okay, so this particular V8 is used inside Node.js to run JavaScript in server. So they extracted this V8 engine from browser, placed it inside Node.js. That's why Node.js is called a runtime. So whenever someone calls what is Node.js, you should say it's a JavaScript runtime because it runs JavaScript for you. Okay, how does it run JavaScript for you? It takes this V8 engine, which is used by Google Chrome, and then puts it inside Node.js and runs JavaScript for you. So this is very, very important for you to understand the difference between how JavaScript is executed in browser and how it is executed in Node.js. So now when you remove this V8 engine and then put it in Node.js, now what you can do is like you can run JavaScript like another server-side programming language like Python, like C++, like C#, like Java, right? Node.js can handle requests, it can connect to database and all those stuff. All these things cannot be done from the browser, right? Imagine browser connecting directly to the database. So that's not possible, right? But it's possible in some sense. There is something called Superbase that let's do this, but that is totally out of the scope of this tutorial. Okay. So now, any doubts in this? I think this has opened so many thoughts and doubts for you, I believe. We started with this, but I want you to understand all this. server with browser JavaScript, then we can go back to this. Any doubts? Again, thumbs up if you have understood all this. But this time, can anyone tell me, like, summarize whatever I have told, so that I'll be more confident, like you understand this. Anyone? How, just say in few words, like how the JavaScript in browser is different from JavaScript in Node.js. Anyone? Arvind, Amalya, Pavan?
கொஞ்ச நேரம் தனிதான் சார் உள்ளே வந்தேன். கொஞ்சம் நெட்வொர்க் பிரச்சனை. நான் திரும்ப வீடியோ பார்த்தேன்.
Okay, no worries. All right then. Okay, we will continue with this or continue with this on the next class. Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow, I don't think I can come. You guys have any class in the mornings? Right? What time you have classes?
UI UX class.
Okay, UX classes. Okay, weekdays. What time? What days you are free? Like Monday, Tuesday, up to Friday. All the weekdays you have classes.
So we have classes on like Tuesday and Wednesdays.
Okay, Tuesday and Wednesday, which means
Or
maybe
Thursdays.
Thursday. If I miss the class tomorrow, Thursday, I will try to schedule another class and we will discuss about this and variable scopes of this and all those things. But okay, let me stop the recording. Second.